Welcome to this channel. I do not have a script for this at all, so if it gets really long and drawn out, then that's why. I have some things to talk about that deal with the WES. So a while ago, I made a video talking about the WES, and just kind of like an introduction. I told you about the fleet and how it was constructed, a little bit of the history and stuff like that. But I mentioned in there some of my opinions on the system. Well, I still hold on to my opinions of some of these. Like, I've always liked how fast the WES can go from point A to point B. The fact that you can go from Beaverton to the Tigard Transit Center in 10 minutes. 10 minutes during rush hour. Even if there were no cars on the road and if you followed all speed limit signs, it would still take you much longer than that driving. If you weren't following speed limit signs, then, well, you'd probably get pulled over by a policeman, but that's a different story. The WES can get you there in 10 minutes. It can get to Tualatin in 15, 16, 17 minutes. You can't say that about buses or driving or anything. That's one major benefit of the WES. Another really cool thing, and one of the more underrated transit options for the WES, is when they bring out the Alaska rail cars. After one of the more modern units breaks down, they'll bring out the Alaska rail cars. If you want to travel back to the 1950s, that's the way to do it. These things are very old school, very retro. They look like they've never... It looks like it did when they were brand new in the 50s, other than the seat pattern. Those are probably 90s. Now here are some of the things that I said I didn't really like. And it's, number one, the schedule. Now, during COVID, it's been every 45 minutes. So if you go and ride it, it'll be every 45 minutes. Fine, whatever. It used to be every 30 before COVID. But, like I said in that WES video that I made, the first one, they can't run it more frequently even if they wanted to. TriMet is basically sharing this right-of-way with freight trains. And so Portland and Western would not let TriMet run WES trains with anything less than 30-minute frequency. They can't go more than that. So we're kind of stuck with that as of now, which is unfortunate, but it's better than not having a commuting system at all, which can go through this alignment in less than a half hour end to end. Now this is a bit interesting. Over the last few weeks, I've been on the WES 2 more times, and I filmed it a couple of times. I filmed it the entire way the first time and some of it the second time. And I had mentioned something in the first video. But let me back up for a second. First time I was on the WES was in 2014, around the summertime. In fact, I have the old Max ticket that was from that day where I did that. And what I did is I went from Beaverton to Wilsonville and back on the same train car, and I remembered it being very loud, like putting your ear near a diesel engine. So it kind of put me off, because for whatever reason I kind of have this thing with loud noises. It ramps my anxiety way up, and oddly makes me angry for some reason. I don't have an explanation for that. And so it put me off of riding the WES for a really long time. But I decided to give it another go, and this time ride the trailer car, because there is no diesel motor in the trailer car. It's the 2-car WES. If you ride the unpowered second train car, you're fine. It's much quieter, and I uploaded a video of that on this channel. And then, I don't know, maybe a few weeks after that, one of the WES trains breaks down. And so for several days, maybe about a week or so, they ran the Alaska rail cars, and I saw that this was a perfect opportunity to ride them. So I did. Unfortunately, I ran out of memory on my camcorder, so I didn't film it, but I got a few pictures and videos on my phone, so at least there's that. And it wasn't that loud. In fact, the buses are louder than the Alaska rail cars. Not the horn. The horn is very loud. You could hear the horn from probably 4 miles away on the Alaska rail cars. But they're a really nice ride, and they are quiet. So my opinion was like, weird? How can these ancient relics perform this well? I mean, sure, TriMet did update them and do all that sort of stuff, but I was very pleasantly surprised that they're quieter. That was one of the major issues I had with them. So then, quite a while went by. Eventually, a few weeks ago, I got on number 1003, car number 1003, and took it to the Tigard Transit Center, which you'll get to see that at the end of this video. I must have got really lucky, or this train car is unique or something, but I sat near the middle, in the middle of the WES trains, I think right in the dead center of the trains. There's this black banner that covers some of the window, and they put a TriMet map over it, this map up here. And on the outside, those are the signs that say Wilsonville or Beaverton, whatever direction it's going. And if you sit near there, in at least car number 1003, it's quiet. A bus is louder than that. So then I was about to make this video and say, well, I don't know what I was smoking, but the WES isn't really that loud. And then, a few days ago, at the time of me filming this, it was 2 days ago, I went on the WES again, and this time I caught number 1001, which, side note, 1001 was coupled to number 2001, the trailer car, for quite a while, and now they're not running the trailer car. So if you're hoping to get that quiet experience that I got with the two-car WES train, for whatever reason they have not been running the trailer car. But anyway, I got number 1001 as it was a single unit. Sat in the exact same spot, right under where this map is. It was pretty loud. So I'm really not sure. I think all the WES train cars are built slightly differently, because it seems like it's almost like a Twilight Zone episode is happening. It seems like every time I go into the train cars, the seating layout is different. Every single one I'm in, it's like it's set up a little bit differently, and it's a different experience every single time. It's very strange. But this one was louder, but it wasn't unbearable. But it was louder than a bus. So I'm not really sure what the explanation is there. Yeah. So last thing I have to talk about that relates to the WES is the fact that they are running DMUs, diesel multiple units. Even though they run them as single cars, they can hook multiple ones of these together, as we've seen with the trailer car, when they'd hook number 2001 with one of the other trains. And so, yeah, it's diesel. But wait a minute, TriMet is committed to being fully non-diesel by 2040. That means these WES trains are not going to be... They're going to have... I've heard no talk of getting electric units, but it's kind of something we should be looking toward. However, again, we are sharing the right-of-way with freight tracks through here, and they're not running the trains all day, every day, so I don't think you could get away with putting an overhead catenary wire. I'm not sure if Portland and Western would allow you to do that. And if you put third rail as your source of power, a third rail system, like most subway systems, that wouldn't work either. There's a lot of at-grade like foot crossings or road traffic crossings and intersections. And not to mention, lots of stations have some way where pedestrians are going to be crossing the track. You know, it's really not... you probably couldn't make it work that way either. But there is such a thing as a battery electric multiple unit. I talked about them there. Somewhere in the UK they tested one that could do pretty decent range for a train. But the WES isn't really that long. But you have another advantage up your sleeve, and that is the fact that the tracks leading into and out of Beaverton Transit Center are TriMet. That part is TriMet. So, let's say, and I have no idea if this is possible or not, it probably is, let's say you made a battery electric multiple unit, BEMU, and had that as your WES train, and every time it pulls into the Beaverton Transit Center, it would raise a pantograph and touch a very short stretch of overhead wire, only at the Beaverton Transit Center because those tracks are TriMet. So, it's touching the wire and it's quickly recharging the battery inside. It may not be able to fully recharge it, but the WES does sit at Beaverton for well over 20 minutes. So you get plenty of charging time. It only sits in Wilsonville for about 5, 6, 7 minutes. So that gives you plenty of time to recharge a built-in battery, and that way when the train is ready to leave, it can use its range to go all the way to Wilsonville and then all the way back. Once it gets back to Beaverton, it can recharge again. I honestly don't think this would be a bad idea. I'm just, with some of the, technical difficulties that we've been having with battery electric buses at present, not sure if it's too soon to be looking at battery electric trains. But I think having that ability to recharge at the Beaverton Transit Center instead of charging it once in Wilsonville and hoping for the best, running it back and forth on the system all day, I think that might be a bit better. And between the morning and evening rush, when the trains park in Wilsonville, you could just have them plugged in charging that whole time, so that way they're fully charged by the evening commute. I will show you a clip, a short WES Ride, it'll be 10 minutes, from Beaverton Transit Center to Tigard Transit Center on car number 1003. Which was the quieter one that I had recently. It's weird. I don't really understand that. If somebody has information on why it seems like all the train cars are different, then please let me know. Alright, well anyways, on with the video from Beaverton Transit Center to Tigard Transit Center on the WES. Enjoy the ride.
Doors to my left.
Puertas a mi izquierda.
Please watch the gap.
Cuidado con el espacio.
Tigard Transit Center. Doors to my left.
Puertas a mi izquierda.
Please watch the gap.
Cuidado con el espacio.